Best friend turned her jealousy into a vendetta, got me fired, and spread lies while karma weaved our stories into new Jubilees. For context, I have a special needs daughter. She suffered a stroke at birth and was later diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and a global developmental disability. This is important, trust me. From 2022 to 2024, I worked at a title and escrow company. In August of 2023, a woman, let's call her Barb, 29, was hired. Almost instantly, Barb and I clicked in a way that felt uncanny, like long-lost sisters or platonic soulmates. Ours was the kind of friendship you fall into as if you'd known each other forever. I was assigned to train Barb for her new job, which was a position lower than mine, and she did great. Soon, our friendship spilled outside work. Barb had 2 daughters, ages 11 and 6, and I had my little girl, who was 4. Our girls bonded quickly, although my daughter's special needs created a bit of a language barrier. Barb had grown up in my hometown but had lived all over because she married young and her husband was in the military. After their decision to divorce, she moved back with her daughters. I was a single mom, my daughter's father never around. It felt natural to band together. We took trips, usually paid for by me, went out to dinners where people might compliment my makeup, my hair, or something else. If a compliment was given to me and not to Barb, though, she'd become upset, as if it was my fault. I helped her out in every way I could: rent, utilities, food, anything. As a single mom myself, I understood how hard it was to get back on your feet. I never wanted or asked for repayment. Making sure her girls had what they needed was more important to me. During our short but intense friendship, I went through heartbreak. Young and reckless, I started sleeping around, nothing malicious, but something I kept private, except with Barb. It became normal for her to probe into my life, insisting on knowing who I was talking to, reading my conversations, and berating me if she didn't approve. I never thought of myself as particularly attractive or unattractive, just average, but I did get compliments here and there, about my looks or the way I dressed. Barb made this a recurring, stormy issue, shutting down any conversation about it and growing angry, yet accusing me of not being a true friend if I dared keep anything from her. It was bizarre and exhausting. My daughter, due to her disability, doesn't talk. If she's uncomfortable or feels unsafe, she expresses it with what looks like aggression, hair pulling, scratching. She isn't trying to harm anyone, she simply has no words, and this is how she shows distress. This led to Barb's oldest daughter's hair being pulled and even getting scratched, with some strands torn out. April 2024 arrived, the anniversaries of my first child's passing and Barb's brother's death, just one day apart. We decided to have a weekend together to support one another, me, Barb, my daughter, and, unexpectedly, Barb's oldest. That night, after my daughter fell asleep, Barb and I had a few drinks, she more than me. Barb, still nursing wounds from a previous toxic relationship, started messaging her ex, and her oldest tried desperately to wrestle the phone away, begging Barb not to bring this man back into their lives. I tried to keep the peace, gently urging Barb not to go back and reminding her she and her daughters deserved better. Suddenly, Barb erupted in front of her 11-year-old, screaming at me, "But it's not fair. It's not fair that you get all the compliments, the attention, and the bigger eggplant emoji than I do. Why can't that happen to me? I'm skinnier than you. I don't have a red daughter. I just for once want something to happen for me. I don't get why you have the better job, a roster 8 miles long, and all the sympathy in the world because of my daughter's name." I was utterly stunned. Hearing those words was one thing, but to have them said in front of her child left me speechless. Barb's daughter ran out with the phone, Barb gave chase, and in the commotion, her daughter's glasses broke. We drifted to bed after that. Emotions were high, but I couldn't stop replaying what happened. The next morning, Barb woke me up, wanting to talk. She laughed about my daughter's T-road strength, acting like it was something we'd all find funny someday. But I wasn't laughing. I packed my daughter and our things and left. Later, I messaged Barb and told her I would not be returning, that what she'd said about my child was unforgivable. An argument followed, both of us fiercely defending our kids, even though I'd always loved her daughters as if they were my own. Kids fight, things happen, but this was different. The next morning, Barb texted. She claimed she still loved and supported me but needed to take a step back. I agreed. That seemed to be the end of it, or so I thought. Then, someone sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post Barb made. No names, but the context made it clear she was talking about my daughter, calling her a menace and suggesting she should be locked in a sanitarium if those even exist anymore. I confronted Barb with the screenshot and ended the friendship for good. That Thursday at work, I was laid off. Barb then went on a rampage, sending messages to every person I'd ever spoken to or been with, claiming I had an STD and was spreading it. It wasn't true. Thankfully, no one believed her, and some even got tested just to prove their innocence, telling her to grow up. For a couple of months, it was blissfully quiet. Then, out of nowhere, 7 new girls added me on Snapchat one night. I thought nothing of it until I started getting messages from all of them, accusing me of sleeping with their supposed boyfriends. 7 girls, 1 guy, they all insisted he was theirs. I didn't even know him. One sent a screenshot of their group chat, and there was Barb's phone number, right in the chat. Instantly, I knew Barb was still out there, still trying to ruin me. A few months passed, November, 2024. By now, I was working as a makeup artist. One day, I bumped into an old friend of Barb's. We talked, and I found out Barb had turned on her too. I learned about Barb's new boyfriend, a well-known abuser with a history of traumatizing women and children, including apparently already Barb's daughters. He had 3 kids he didn't see. Suddenly, I started getting messages from random numbers. Then, I was added to a group chat. The messages claimed to be from friends of one of the guys I'd seen during my friendship with Barb. Then came the calls, caller ID is a miracle. Guess whose boyfriend was calling me? Barb's new boyfriend. So, I decided enough was enough and texted the group chat, telling Barb that she needed to leave me alone or I'd file harassment charges against her. Fast forward to April 2025. Out of the blue, I learned from one of Barb's old friends that Barb is pregnant, with her new boyfriend's child. Meanwhile, I just started working with a different title and escrow company, getting back into the field that I truly love. By July 2025, Barb gives birth to a healthy baby girl. But here's the kicker, she's using her child support from her ex-husband to pay her current boyfriend's child support. The irony isn't lost on me. Then, September 2025 rolls around. I get offered a position back at the original title and escrow company I was laid off from a year and a half earlier. Not just any position, either, I'm in a remote role, higher rank than our local branch manager. To put it simply, I'm my old boss's boss. My position covers a different state, so I don't have to bother with the local branches unless it's absolutely necessary. This new setup is a game changer. I finally have the freedom to care for my daughter and meet her needs without feeling like I'm leaving my team hanging every time I travel for her appointments. And then in June, something amazing happens. I start dating a man who not only accepts my daughter for exactly who she is, but treats us both with so much care and respect. He's a true gentleman, the kind who opens doors for me, drives an hour just to surprise me with flowers. He genuinely takes care of us, and I can't believe how lucky I am to have found him. A little while later, Barb's old friend gives me another update. After Barb returned from maternity leave, she got fired. Now she's back to being a single mom, but this time with 3 girls and 3 different dads, struggling to make ends meet all over again. I watch all of this unfold and feel like karma really has done her work. Honestly, I never imagined it would all turn out this way, better than I could have hoped. I'll admit, my heart aches for her girls. I miss them so much and want nothing but the best for them. And just to be clear, I never went digging for updates about Barb's life. I was perfectly happy to leave things where I'd left them, warning her not to keep trying to defame me or I'd take it to the authorities. Now, my daughter is 6 and thriving in school. We're planning a move this summer to a town near my boyfriend, and there's even a campus of the children's hospital there, where my daughter gets her care. Life has finally started feeling good again. Update, because apparently the universe wasn't done tying bows on this mess. January rolled in quiet and ordinary until it wasn't. My daughter got her new AAC device at school, a bright little tablet with big buttons that she'd been trialing. Day 1, she smacked the music icon 3 times, then found Mama. The thing spoke in that little robot voice, Mama Music, and it knocked the air out of me so hard I had to sit on the floor right there in the hallway. Her teacher hugged me like we'd both just run a marathon. I drove home blasting the same 2 songs she always picks and didn't even care that they looped for an hour. Work was humming. Being remote meant my mornings were her mornings. Therapy runs didn't feel like punishments anymore, they were just part of the day. Then March slid sideways. The unknown numbers returned, different area codes, different names, the same sludge. Screenshots of me I'd never taken. One text said, "I know where you live now." Another turned my daughter's photo into something vile with a caption I won't repeat. There was a group chat again, with a brand new number taking the lead and acting like a bouncer for the rest. Caller ID with a spoof label, but the slip-ups were stupid. He didn't hide his cadence, and I knew who it was the way you know a song from the first 2 notes. I walked my phone straight into the sheriff's office and filed the report I'd promised I would if she kept going. They took it seriously. "Keep everything," the deputy said. "You'd be surprised how often people document their own crimes." A week later, a detective called to say they'd linked several numbers to an app account using Barb's boyfriend's email. He was on probation in our county for harassment from a past case. This counted. A judge signed an emergency order the same day. When service was complete, the calls died mid-ring like someone yanked a plug out of a wall. April at work brought something I didn't expect. Our fraud team pinged me on a file in my state, seller impersonation, a deed rushing to record with a notary acknowledgement that didn't smell right. My job wasn't to audit signatures, but the name on the stamp pulled my stomach to my knees. Barb had gotten her notary commission during our friendship to make extra money, and there it was, plain as day, her name, her commission number, on a deed I knew she had no business anywhere near. I recused myself and sent it to compliance with the cleanest email I've ever written, no editorial, just facts, documents, timestamps. Our counsel looped in the Secretary of State. 2 days later I got a note from compliance. "Good call." That's all it said. I didn't go looking for what came after, but some things are loud even when you plug your ears. Public docket searches exist for a reason. The boyfriend's name popped up first, violation of probation, cyberstalking, served. Then a separate entry, complaint filed against a commission notary for failure to secure stamp and improper acknowledgements. Commission suspended pending investigation. I didn't need anyone to explain the sequence. I already knew. In the middle of all that, my life was growing in instead of out. We moved in June, just across the county line to a little rental with a porch and a kitchen that looks like it's perpetually morning because the light is indecently kind. My boyfriend carried boxes like he was auditioning for a commercial and installed child locks without asking, like a man who understands that safety is not a conversation, it's a given. The first night, my daughter sat on the porch with a bowl of peach slices, tapping more on her device and then signing it with both hands like she was conducting an orchestra. He handed me a key on a ring with a tiny sunflower and said, "Only if you want it." I wanted it. July brought a different kind of email. HR pushed me into a leadership cohort I didn't even know I'd been nominated for, and one of the modules was mitigation for notary fraud. I watched the slide deck and wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. Life had come full circle without me having to push it. After the session, our legal team asked if I would record a segment for the branches about recognizing red flags in real time. I agreed. I didn't say a single word about my history. I didn't need to. The work stood on its own. Then August cracked open with a message that was not mine to ignore. Barb's oldest found me on Instagram, the same kid who once tried to pry a phone out of her mother's hand because she was begging for her own peace. She said she was safe. She said the baby was with her grandmother for the week. She said, "I just wanted to know if you were okay because mom's been posting like you did something." I told her I was okay. I told her she could always call the school counselor if she needed help and that there are grown-ups whose whole job is to listen. We sent each other pictures of our pets and then I sat on the floor and sobbed, because kids shouldn't have to grow up this fast. 2 days later, a friend of a friend forwarded a GoFundMe for legal fees and injustice. I didn't click. I didn't need a story to match the docket was the story. Another week, and someone else told me Barb had shown up at our old branch looking to do a signing to rebuild her business and was told her commission was suspended. She left angry, spilling words in the lobby that would have embarrassed a sailor. None of my bees, none of my business. My phone stayed quiet. The order stayed in place. Somewhere in all of that, my daughter said "Mama" without the tablet. It was a whisper, a slippery little thing that fell out of her mouth like it had been hiding in her cheek this whole time. She was in the bathtub playing with a cup, and she poured water from one palm to the other and looked up at me like she'd found a treasure. "Mama," she said, and then blinked like she wasn't sure if she'd done it right. I didn't breathe for a long 5 seconds, and then I clapped and cried and probably scared the dog. She said it again like a question, and I said, "Yes. Me." Last week, the detective called to close the loop. The boyfriend took a plea on the cyberstalking and the probation violation. Barb's complaint with the state is still being processed, but the recommendation is revocation. The order of protection remains in place for 3 years. When I hung up, I watered the plant on the windowsill that my daughter keeps dragging dirt out of and thought about how sometimes the mess ends exactly where it started, with the person who made it. We're planning my daughter's new school year now with the hospital team 10 minutes away instead of 90. She's learning to ride a trike with a goofy fluorescent flag, and she laughs so hard when the wind hits her face that strangers turn and grin. My boyfriend keeps an extra car seat base in his truck and a spare hair tie on his wrist for me. The days feel like they belong to us. Update, because life apparently likes a callback with better lighting. October stamped itself with official letterhead. A subpoena slid into my inbox for an administrative hearing with the Secretary of State, remote, 10 minutes blocked, to authenticate records. I made coffee, put my hair in a clip that makes me look like I know what I'm doing, and signed into a little courtroom in a browser window. There was a square for the hearing officer, a square for counsel, a square that said respondent with the camera off. They read my name, swore me in, and asked the cleanest questions. "Is this your email? Is this the file you escalated? Did you draft the memo attached?" Yes. 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 Facts only, like laying out silverware. When they thanked me and let me go, I closed the laptop, cut strawberries for my daughter's snack, and didn't check the docket for a full day. The order went up anyway, because public pages don't wait for feelings. Commission revoked. Civil penalty. Language about failure to safeguard a seal and improper acknowledgements that made my shoulder blades sit down for the first time all week. I didn't pass it around. I watered the plant my kid keeps on potting and went back to my day. The crazy part came dressed like bureaucracy. 2 weeks later, a knock landed at 8:30 a.m. when my daughter had both hands in kinetic sand and the dog was trying to decide if he was brave. CPS, polite and crisp, "Here on a report, here to see the child, here to look at the home." I knew exactly whose idea of sport that was, but I didn't say her name. I said, "Of course, come in." I showed them the therapy schedule on the fridge, the emergency binder by the door, the AED at the hospital 10 minutes away, the bruises on my shins from being a jungle gym, the sand all over the floor because we are, God help us, living. They noted the key locks, the window guards, the cabinet labeled sensory, and asked my daughter her favorite thing on her device. She tapped music, then swing, then lifted her hands for more. The social worker smiled with her whole face. Case closed as unfounded a week later, in writing. Be aware false reports are a crime, the letter said. I stuck it in the same file as the protection order and slept like a person who'd run through a field of rakes and come out the other side. Work turned into a movie I would actually watch. We caught a payoff letter that wasn't a payoff letter at all. Logos right, grammar wrong, routing number to a universe where money disappears. I called the lender directly, made them confirm with a human mouth on a recorded line, and killed a $500,000 wire before it left orbit. Our CFO sent a one-line email that made my cheeks burn. You just saved a house. Someone in corporate apparently likes flair because a courier brought a basket of snacks I can't pronounce and a handwritten "thank you" I tucked into a folder like a middle schooler with a crush. The branch I started in asked if I'd hop on a call to walk through red flags. My old boss cleared his throat and told the team I was the best hire he ever made. It felt like finishing a puzzle you forgot you started. November flickered with small, ordinary miracles. My daughter started kindergarten in the new town, half day, quiet classroom, a teacher who uses visuals like sorcery. The first week, she learned the route to the music room and refused to take any other hallway ever again. The speech therapist sent a video, my kid pressing eat, then reaching for an apple slice and saying a bare, breath thin ah. It cracked open something in me I didn't know was still locked. She's testing go and stop now, purely because she likes the power, and honestly, same. I got the other kind of update because the world is a small town if you stand in the right corner. Barb's oldest messaged me a photo of a dog wearing a sweater and then, like she'd been holding her breath for months, said weekends at Dad's are quiet and that quiet feels like a miracle. She said she didn't have to hide in the bathroom to do homework there. I told her good girls deserve good quiet and that none of what happened is her fault and that there are grown-ups who will pick up the phone at midnight if she ever needs one. December tried it one more time. A number I didn't recognize pinged with a cease and desist full of legalese and misspelled adjectives, accusing me of harassment by proxy for existing. I forwarded it to the detective with the subject line unsolicited holiday card, and he called 5 minutes later just to laugh, then told me he was logging it as a potential violation of the order and looping in the prosecutor. Somewhere along the way, the GoFundMe went down and the posts went private. I didn't screenshot. I didn't need souvenirs. We hung a porch swing, because my boyfriend believes in fixing the things the world forgets to soften. He did it between rain squalls with an umbrella leaning against his shoulder, and my daughter climbed in with a blanket like she owns the sky. He looked at me in a way that made my hands go still and said, out of nowhere, I called your dad. They talked about nothing, weather, football, the peaches we bought in July, but my father later told me he put the phone down and sat in the garage for an hour and smiled like he'd stolen something. I don't know if the world ends in grand finales or just keeps turning, but that felt like a door finding its hinge. The last call of the year was from the Secretary of State's office, not to me but to our company, asking if I'd be willing to sit on an advisory working group for notary fraud prevention. It's a volunteer thing with a badge I will absolutely frame because I am, at heart, still the kid who loved gold stars. I said yes. I'll spend a Tuesday afternoon in January with 3 people who speak my nerd language about stamps and seals and the ways people try to bend them. On New Year's Day, we took the trike to the park even though our breath made ghosts. She pedaled like the wind owed her money and screamed laughing when it did what wind does. She stopped at the top of the little hill, looked back at me, and said, clear as anything, Mama, go? It was a question and a command all at once. We went. We're still going. Update, because apparently when you say yes to one Tuesday afternoon, 3 more line up single file. The advisory group met in a state-branded video room with everyone on mute until they remembered they were human. We talked about seals and storage like they were endangered animals and someone from council said the thing I've been waiting my whole adult life to hear, your email chains could be a training module. They asked if I'd be willing to speak during a House committee work session, 10 minutes, virtual, explain what a fake payoff looks like to a person who stares at real ones all day. I pulled on a blazer over a t-shirt that said coffee in 4 languages and told a handful of lawmakers that punctuation is sometimes a crime scene. One of them nodded like a metronome. I logged off, made macaroni, and forgot about it until an aide sent me the recording with a thank you and a gif of a stamp. My 8th grade self would have passed out in the hallway. The bigger left turn slid in under a Gov domain, a Secret Service agent, actual title, not a Halloween costume, asked if I could walk a financial crimes team through the fake payoff and the notary thing without naming names. I sat at my kitchen table with a mug that says world's okayest mom and screen shared a redacted timeline while a man with a very serious voice said, we've seen this ring before. The universe keeps insisting on being both wild and on time. They asked if I would help draft a 1-page smell test for escrow officers in our region. I wrote it the way I write grocery lists when I don't want to forget cilantro, and they sent back a thank you coin in the mail with an eagle on it that made my daughter flap her hands and say bird on her device. I put the coin in the junk drawer like a dragon hoarding paper clips and pride. Home has been its own bright, ordinary miracle. My daughter is experimenting with 2-word combos like she's tasting new candy. Mama Swing has been elevated to an art form and more music is the anthem of our house. One night she looked at me like she'd found a secret and tried wavoo, the V falling right out of her mouth, slippery and perfect. I said it back so many times the dog sighed. We did have one scare, the kind that reminds you why you moved. Fever came fast, and with it that 1,000-yard stare that makes you move without thinking. We were at the hospital in 7 minutes. They slid us into a room like we were always meant to be there, checked what needed checking, and sent us home with a plan and a phone number that answers at 2 a.m. My boyfriend drove, both hands at 10 and 2, talking to her about juice and cartoons in a voice so calm it could have lowered my heart rate by itself. We slept in the living room bed we built on bad nights, couch cushions and twin sheets and a galaxy of crumbs, and woke up to her asking for pancake with the confidence of a CEO. The legal weather did what weather does, changed while I was looking the other way. The prosecutor filed to convert my order to a longer one with a footnote about third-party misuse and ongoing pattern. I didn't have to do anything but verify my address and sit in a silent browser courtroom while a judge read words with edges. The only camera on was the court clerk's, a potted plant over her shoulder doing its best. 5 years, granted. They read the conditions like a recipe. I clicked leave meeting, took the letter out of my mailbox 2 days later, and put it in the folder with the rest of the paper life. In the same week, a public page posted a charge that is exactly what you think it is when you do not return your notary stamp to irrelevance. The line item was small. The consequence was not, I didn't toast it. I stirred a pot of soup and taught my daughter to smell thyme. The good kind of wild showed up in our kitchen on a Thursday when the dishwasher was grumbling and there was a constellation of blueberries underfoot. My boyfriend asked my daughter to show me the new button. She tapped question and then Mary, then looked at me like she knew exactly what she was doing and hit mama. He pulled a ring box out of the junk drawer, next to the eagle, which I later realized he'd tried to polish with a dish towel, and said, "Only if you both say yes." She smashed yes like it owed her money. I said yes with my mouth and my whole body. The ring is simple and sits on my finger like it was always supposed to live there. He called my dad after dinner and said, "I'd like to be part of your family on purpose." My father cried in a way that made me want to go back and teach every version of myself that love is allowed to be quiet. Work keeps finding new ways to feel like the right room. I went in person to my old branch for the first time in forever to walk the team through a file that was trying too hard to look normal. The lobby smelled the same, coffee and toner and the weirdly comforting whiff of manila folders. My old boss stood up straighter than I've ever seen him and introduced me to a new hire like I was a compass. We closed a file that tried to slip past in a Halloween costume and I drove home listening to a podcast about mundane heroics and laughed out loud at a stoplight because apparently my life has decided that commas and stamps are my cape. Out of nowhere and not really out of nowhere, I got a text from a number I have memorized the shape of without having saved it. It was the oldest, a picture of a cat asleep in a laundry basket and then a message that said, "I got A's this quarter. It's quieter. If you know, you know." I told her that quiet can be the loudest kind of happiness and that A's don't measure worth but they do feel good, and she sent me back a picture of her little sister's hands holding markers like swords. They sounded like kids. It felt like someone cracked a window in a fog car. January blurred into February and then March tried one more stunt with a letter that spelled my last name wrong and threatened court if I didn't stop telling the truth. I forwarded it to the detective and got back one line, already addressed. The line between us and the nonsense feels thicker now, like tape you can see. My daughter brought home a drawing where all her people are circles with legs and one of them is me with 2 dots for eyes and a smile that looks like it's trying not to break into a laugh. She wrote M under it, her first letter sticking to the paper like it was tired of waiting for us to notice. We went to the park this weekend because the air finally decided to be a friend again. She pedaled her trike in lopsided glory, flag slicing the sky, hair in argument with gravity. At the top of the little hill she turned to me with that face she makes when she's about to do something brave and said, clear as anything with all the muscles she's earned, "Mama, fast." It was a command and a joke and a prayer. We went. We are still going. Update, because apparently paperwork and miracles share a calendar now. The advisory group sprouted legs. An email with a header that smelled like actual authority slid in asking if I could show up in person for a work session at the Capitol. 10 minutes and a chair at a long table where people put their nameplates like armor. I wore the blazer again, flats that don't lie about who I am, and sat in a room that echoes even when you whisper. I said the same plain things I always say. Punctuation is a crime scene, real payoffs have a heartbeat, stamps are not costumes. A representative with a bow tie asked me what a smell test is and I told him it's when your stomach and the comma agree. People laughed in the relieved way humans do when they understand something scary. We made it a day instead of an errand. My boyfriend and my daughter did laps around the rotunda while I talked about seals like they were endangered and she pressed Big House on her device and then echo and then looked up like she was in on the joke. We got ice cream at noon in January because life doesn't need reasons anymore. I went home, made spaghetti, and did not refresh a single page. 2 days later, an aide sent a link with language that read like it had been dragged uphill by committee and then, quietly, made it over. Unanimous out of work session, scheduled for a vote. I didn't frame it. I fed the dog and threw away the broken rubber band I keep pretending isn't broken. The wildest thing came dressed like a boring email from IT. Someone had used a throwaway address to send our CFO a fake ethics complaint about me with screenshots they forgot to make-believe. It hit the hotline, got routed to compliance, and then landed in my inbox on accident because technology takes naps. I didn't have to say a word. Our legal team pulled the headers apart like string and found the same burn account breadcrumbs the detective keeps in his pocket. Third-party contact is contact. I forwarded it with 3 words, "for your file," and went back to my call. The detective called later to say the prosecutor had filed a motion to show cause on the order and the judge signed it before lunch. 30 days, suspended if there are no violations, and a warning in black and white about indirect communication. I hung up and washed grapes. Work turned itself into a movie again. A wire instruction came in dressed right, shoes shined, routing number 1 digit off. The email thread was perfect, except the sender had signed regards when the human in question is a best guy, always has been. I called that human, made him say the words out loud, and he laughed in the way people laugh when they almost get hit by a car they didn't see. We saved another house. I got a note from the lender's fraud team that said, "We posted your one-pager on every monitor in our ops room." Someone mailed me a pen with their logo on it like we were in a club. I stuck it next to the eagle coin in the junk drawer where important nonsense goes to live. Home kept being the best room. My daughter's teacher sent a video of her walking down a hallway with 2 fingers on the wall like a tiny tightrope artist and saying, out loud and on purpose, "Go music," and then putting the device away all by herself because she didn't need it for those 2 words. Fridays are now for pajama day, and she takes it as a legal obligation. She's testing 3-word combos like a scientist. Mama read book, more swing please, no broccoli, which honestly, fair. My boyfriend taught her to put her palm on his chest and feel the rumble when he hums. She decided that's called drum and I'm not arguing. We walked into the courthouse on a Thursday with our best clothes under our coats and a Ziploc with our IDs because I have never been chill a day in my life. We got married in a room that looks like it could host a spelling bee, my daughter in sneakers under a tulle skirt the color of a sunrise. The judge wore a tie with little scales on it and asked if anyone objected, and the only sound was my child mashing yes on her tablet because she thought she was being helpful. We said the parts you say. He promised to be the guy in the 2 a.m. pharmacy line and the guy who keeps extra batteries in the drawer you always forget. I promised to keep my ridiculous label maker holstered sometimes and to tell the truth the easy way and the hard way. We cried the pretty kind and the ugly kind. My father met us on the sidewalk with a brown bag that had peaches even though it's winter and said he found them at a place that still believes in seasons but also in exceptions. We ate cake on the porch with forks and no plates because we are heathens with joy. Public pages did what they do when you're not looking. A minute order popped up in a case that's none of my business and all of my history. Supervised visits on Sundays only, contingent on completion of a class with a title that made me sit down. I wouldn't have known if the oldest hadn't texted a picture of her little sister in the world's most serious winter hat and then, like she was storing sunshine in a jar, added, "Sundays are fine." I told her I was proud of her in the way you are proud of someone you didn't raise but would have. I told her I will always answer, even if I can't say much. She sent back 3 heart emojis that all looked like they'd been drawn by different people. The Capitol thing didn't end at the Capitol. A bank association asked if I could sit on a webinar and explain why commas matter and I tried not to grin through the whole title slide. The Secret Service person with the serious voice sent a follow-up that basically said, "We're seeing fewer successful hits and more weird attempts," and I allowed myself to say out loud to the dog, "Maybe we're doing something." Our HR lady, the one who always smells like vanilla and mercy, sent me a badge for excellence in risk mitigation, which is corporate for you notice the thing, and I stuck it to the inside of my planner because I'm still that kid. We did get one more knock, not CPS. A process server with a face like a Monday and a packet addressed to my legal name the way telemarketers do it. A civil small claims attempt out of a neighboring county claiming defamation because existence is apparently a tort now. I called the clerk, who said there was no filing fee paid and no service logged, and then the detective, who asked me to email a picture and then said the words I've started to love, already addressed. I put the packet in the folder with the statement and went outside to tickle my kid until she screamed stop and then go and then stop until the neighbors probably wondered who was in charge of the button. The bill that was a draft the last time I checked got a number and a title and then a date, and I watched the stream from my kitchen while my daughter poured water from one cup to another like it's the most important job anyone has ever had. They voted yes. Every box on the screen went green. It still has to run the gauntlet, but for a second my kitchen felt like a building with a dome and my cheap coffee tasted like fancy coffee. I did not call anyone. I put a sticker on my kid's device that says "Go Team." Somewhere in the middle of all that, she tried out Dad. Not on command, not on the button. We were loading groceries in the rain, and my boyfriend had put the bread on top like a human being who understands gravity, and she looked up, pointed, and said it like she was dropping a pebble in a lake. He froze with a carton of eggs in his hands and then pretended to be a statue because sometimes that is the only thing to do when your life is breaking and remaking at the same time. She said it again later in the bathtub, softer, like a secret she was checking for cracks. We didn't correct her. We didn't clap. We just let it be a thing that existed in the room with us, warm and unharmed. The plant on the windowsill is still losing the battle against my child's tiny shovel. We repot it like it's a game we mean to win. The porch swing creaks the good creak. The order sits in the file like a sentry. My phone doesn't ring with nonsense. When it does ring, it's the school asking if I can bring more goldfish crackers or my dad asking if the peaches this week tasted like anything and me saying they tasted like almost summer. My daughter took her trike to the park after the rain and aimed at every puddle on purpose, flag slicing the gray like it was drawing a line the sky had forgotten. At the top of the little hill, She looked back with that grin she gets when she's about to ask the world to be brave with her and said, with all the muscles she has earned, "Mama, family go." We went. We are still going.